I guess the question to ask here in the beginning is, when you got married, what did you expect? What were the expectations that fueled your hopes and your dreams in your marriage? And maybe the more dangerous question is this: how close have you come to realizing your expectations? I just saw a wife do this to her husband. That means not close. I think there are thousands and thousands of couples that get married every year with unrealistic expectations. I would be sitting with a future husband and a future wife, and the future wife would look at her husband with sort of glassy romantic eyes and say something like this: "I don't think I could ever be angry at him." I'm angry just to hear it, because I know where that's going to go. Maybe it all starts with the weirdness of Western culture dating. Can we talk? I don't know why I'm asking permission. I'm going to. I think Western culture dating is just a step above used car sales. Because when you're dating, the last thing you want is for that person to get to know you. So a man who doesn't like to shop will shop. He'll say, "Yes, dear, I'd love to go to another 12 stores to look for those shoes that are in your head and probably never ever been produced. Because, darling, when I'm with you, I'm shopolistic." A woman who doesn't like sports will watch sports. She'll say, "Yes, dear, I'd love to watch another game." Now, somewhere in the middle of a game, she'll give it away. She'll say something like this: "My, aren't their uniforms cute?" A man would never say that. If a man thought that, he'd be terrified. And then 6 months into marriage, this woman is crying, "This is not the man I married." Check this out. This is the man you married. The man you dated was a fake. It took you a while. Maybe the best way to frame what we're going to do together as we look at this significant human relationship in God's plan is to start with a little bit of my own story. I've been married now for 42 years. I know you're looking at me and thinking this man is way too young to be married that long. So if you're trying to calculate my age, I was married at 7. And Luella and I have struggled with this issue throughout our marriage. It's the issue of time. Well, it's really been my struggle. Luella was raised in Cuba, and she has sort of an island and a Latin view of time. She lives on a bit of a vibe. You know, you go to the islands because time slows down. If we agree on a pointed hour for Luella, it's a rough estimate. I was raised by a man who thought that the sole litmus test of the value of a human being was punctuality. You're on time, you can live. Now, it's Easter morning in the Tripp family at the point of this story, and if you have multiple children, you know that Sunday morning is not the most relaxed morning of the week. We're stuffing children in vans saying, "Shut up, we're going to worship." We call that preparing our hearts for worship. And our church, for reasons I don't really understand, had decided the best way to celebrate the resurrection was to have a full breakfast before the service on Sunday morning. I don't know what that has to do with the resurrection, but it was a tradition. Well, that meant we had to leave an hour and a half early. I woke up with feelings of futility. And about time for us to get ready to be ready to leave, I go into the bathroom where Luella is and my then 9-year-old son, and I can tell by the way Luella is dressed that she's not near being ready. And I start saying helpful things to her, like informing her it's not an Easter dinner, it's an Easter breakfast. She found that very helpful. That's a lie. Telling her that a couple of our children are already in the car waiting as usual. reminding her that I'm an elder in the church and my arrival before the ham and eggs is very important to my ministry. I'm cranking up the heat. About then, my 9-year-old son said, "Daddy, may I say something?" I should have said no. He said, "Daddy, do you really think this is a way a Christian man should be talking to his wife?" I slapped him. No. That's a joke for you overly serious people in the room. I said, "What do you think?" trying to escape the conviction. And he looked at me very sincerely and said, "Daddy, it doesn't make any difference what I think. What does God think?" I walk out of the bathroom being duly corrected. And I hear this little voice behind me as I get to the threshold of the door saying, "Daddy, may I say something else?" I want to say, no, please don't. He said, "Daddy, what I mean is, what does the Bible say about it?" I went into my bedroom and these two thoughts hit me. First, my pride reared up. I want to be a hero to my son, and it was embarrassing that he saw through that moment and felt the tension that Luella felt. But hear what I'm about to say. That didn't last very long. I immediately then thought, how could it possibly be that God would love me this much that he'd give one twit of care about that little minor moment in the Tripp bathroom? That just wasn't a Paul moment or a Luella moment or a Darnay moment. God was in that moment. Now think about this. This is one moment in one room on one morning in one house, on one street, in one neighborhood, in one city, in one state, in one nation, on one continent, in one hemisphere, in one globe in the universe, and God is in that moment. That is love of such magnificence, I can't wrap my brain around it. Now, why is that important? Oh, hear what I'm about to say. Because you don't live in big moments. Most of us won't be written up in history books. You only make 3 or 4 big decisions your entire life. Several decades after we die, the people we leave behind will struggle to remember the details of our lives. If God doesn't rule your mundane, he doesn't rule you because that's where you live. The character of a marriage isn't set in 3 or 4 big moments. The character of a marriage is set in 10,000 little moments. I would ask you right now, be honest. What's happening in the little moments of your marriage? What would I see if I watched the video of the last 6 weeks of the little moments of your marriage? The little moments of your marriage are profoundly important precisely because they are the little moments, because that happens to be the address where your marriage lives. No, I think that's where we get in trouble. A husband will say something nasty to his wife in a little moment, but he'll walk down the hallway and say, "She knows I love her. It was just a little moment." A wife will lash out in bitterness in a little moment that she's carried for a while, but she'll later say to herself, "It was just a little moment. He knows I love him." Yes, it is true that those little moments are significant and important because that happens to be the place where your marriage lives. I have little interest in the time that we have together to talk about the big moments of your marriage because that's not where you live. But I have lots of interest in shining the searching light of Scripture on the little moments of your marriage. Now, I want to say something before we jump in about the Bible that will be our guide. I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but your Bible isn't arranged by topic. That frustrates some of you. You wish it was arranged by topic with little tabs at the end of the page. You can go to your topic of interest. The Bible isn't arranged by topic because of divine editorial error. The Bible is arranged the way it is because of divine intention. The Bible is essentially a grand redemptive story. Maybe the best way to say it is that the Bible is a theologically annotated story. It's a story with God's essential notes. Now, here's what this means. If all you do is go to the marriage passages to learn about marriage, you will miss the vast majority of the information that the Bible has for you on this profoundly important relationship, because that's not the way the Bible's arranged. To the degree that every passage tells me things about God and things about myself and things about life in a fallen world and things about the disaster of sin and things about the operation of grace, to that degree, every passage tells me something about every dimension of my life. That's the way the Bible works. And so I want to take you on a bit of a journey through passages I think are so wise and so essential that I'm persuaded you can't really understand why marriage is a struggle and how marriage difficulty gets solved without these passages. We're only going to examine three things, three very important things, but maybe they're things that you didn't ask yourself and you haven't thought to consider. Here's the first one. A marriage of unity, understanding, and love is not rooted in romance, but worship. A marriage of unity and understanding and love is not rooted in romance, but in worship. Now, if you're a woman in the room and you know who you are, don't think that this is another Christian speaker who's disrespecting romance. I love romance. I'm a very romantic man. In fact, when I was doing my doctoral studies and I was taking those personality tests in areas like romance, I scored way off the male charts onto the female charts. That made me very comfortable. Particularly when my professor thought that was so interesting, he posted my charts for all the class to discuss. But you got to understand this. Romance is never the cause of a good marriage. Romance is the result of a good marriage. Romance is never the cause of a good marriage. Romance is the result of a good marriage. And if you look to romance to form for you a good marriage, you're going to be anxious, discouraged, freaked out, disappointed, and ultimately hopeless. Romance is a result, not a cause. Now, this is one of these passages that you can understand every word in this little passage, this principle, and not understand the principle. And the tricky word in that statement is the word worship. What in the world does it mean to say that a good marriage is rooted in worship? What does that mean? Well, think with me. When you hear the word worship, what do you think about? Most people, when they hear the word worship, they think about a Sunday morning or a Saturday night, if you go to a real cool church, activity. And what you need to understand is very important, that worship is first your identity before it's ever your activity. Worship is your identity before it's ever your activity. You are a worshiper. Now that means you don't just worship on Sunday. It means you worship your way through every moment of every day of your life. You could argue that the only thing a human being ever does is worship. Now, what does that mean? It means I'm always attaching my identity. I'm always attaching my meaning and purpose. I'm always attaching my inner sense of well-being to something. I'm always serving something. I'm always in pursuit of something. You say, well, Paul, I sort of get that, but I don't know how that connects to marriage. Well, here's our first passage. It's an incredibly helpful passage of Scripture. Let me read for you. No good tree bears bad fruit, nor does a bad tree bear good fruit. Each tree is recognized by its own fruit. People do not pick figs from thorn bushes or grapes from briars. The good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart. And the evil man brings evil out of the evil stored up in his heart. For out of the overflow of his heart, his mouth speaks. Now let me give you the helicopter view of this important passage of Scripture. Here it is. Jesus is saying that your words and behavior, wife, and your words and behavior, husband, are more formed, shaped, caused, directed by what's inside of you than what's outside of you. Your words and behavior are more caused by what's inside of you than what's outside of you. No one believes that. I'm counseling, let's say, a couple that has an angry, tense, conflictual marriage, and I ask the husband what's wrong with his marriage. Who do you think he's going to talk about? He's not going to talk about himself, he's going to talk about his wife, because he's convinced that the things he's doing are caused by her. And if I ask the wife what's wrong with her marriage, she's not going to talk about herself, she's going to talk about her husband. Now, at that point, as a counselor, I'm out of a job. Do you understand why? Because there are no seekers in the room. The husband's only there to get his wife fixed. The wife is only there to get her husband fixed. No one actually wants my help. How can you have two utterly righteous people and a messed up marriage? What's up with that? Doesn't make any sense. Hear this radical truth. This is a place we have to start. Wives, look at me. I mean it. Your husband is never the cause of what you do and say. He may be the occasion, but he's not the cause. Husbands, look at me. Your wife is never the cause of what you do and say. She may be the occasion, but she's not the cause. Enough of the blame game. Enough of keeping lists. Enough of pointing fingers. It does not work. Now, to help us understand what he's talking about, Jesus says, don't you understand? You live out of the heart. You speak out of the heart. Now, what is he talking about there? What is this thing, the heart, that he's talking about? Well, the Bible essentially divides the human being into two pieces. Your outer man and your inner man. Your outer man is your physical self. It's the house that God has designed for your heart while you're here on earth. Like astronauts have a spacesuit, you could call your body your earth suit. Someday we're going to get a new suit. And some of us are excited about that. I think I heard some amens. And then the Bible talks about the inner man. It uses many terms for the inner man: mind, emotion, spirit, soul, will, and they're all collected by one big basket term, the term heart. That term is used in hundreds and hundreds of passages of Scripture. It's one of the most well-developed themes in all the Bible. I am convinced you cannot understand the message of the Bible unless you understand the Bible's theology of the heart. Now, I want to give you a definition. So when you're reading your Bible, you come across the word heart, you will know what the Bible is talking about. Here's a definition. The heart is the causal core of your personhood. Let me say that again. The heart is the causal core of your personhood. One more time. The heart is the causal core of your personhood. The heart is the steering wheel. The The heart is the directional system. The heart shepherds, guides, shapes, motivates your words and behavior. Now, to help us to understand that principle and its importance, Jesus uses two very helpful illustrations. The first is your talk. Jesus says, it's out of the heart that the mouth speaks. Have you ever said to someone, "Ooh, I didn't mean to say that"? What would be more biblical to say is, "Please forgive me for saying what I meant." You get the point? You see, if it hadn't been in your heart, it wouldn't have come out of your sweet lips. Everything, wives, that comes out of your mouth was there already. Everything, husbands, that comes out of your mouth was there already. My mom was the member of a Depression-era family of 10 brothers and sisters. It was what we would now call in our culture a classic dysfunctional family. When these people reached adulthood, they didn't like one another very much. But they were committed to family reunions. You're right, they were creepy gatherings. They would rent a hall and they would sit at separate tables and glare at one another like warring nation states. Wonderful gathering. Like a bad UN, or maybe like the real UN. And the centerpiece of the day would be this great buffet table because everybody would bring their best dish. And then at the end of the meal, there would be enough alcohol come out to float the United States. And this thing would get crazy. Well, my mom and dad had the habit of going for the meal, and they taught us how to work the tables and say hello to our estranged aunts and uncles and cousins, and before this thing got too crazy, we would be at our retreat. One Saturday, my mom got involved with an evangelistic encounter with one of her siblings and didn't realize that another one of her brothers downstairs where my brother Mark and I were, little boys, had gotten very drunk, and he was saying sexually perverse things about women in the room. My mom ran downstairs. She grabbed my brother Mark and I, and she yanked us to the car. I remember it very well. I don't think our feet touched the steps. And before she drove away, she said to us, "I want to say something to you about what just happened, and I don't want you to ever forget it." I obviously never have. She said these eloquent words. Hear this. "There's nothing that comes out of the mouth of a drunk that wasn't there in the first place." You see, the alcohol didn't create that sexual perversion. What the alcohol did was loosen the lips. And when the lips got loose, out came the heart. Your husband, in his bad moments, doesn't cause you to do the nasty things you do in response. That's caused by your heart. Your wife, when she doesn't live up to your expectations, doesn't cause you to beat her up with words. That comes out of your heart. That's what Jesus is saying. It's radical and humbling.